It'd be a tough one, but if you've ever asked the question, why am I attracted to these emotionally unavailable partners? And this video is going to be the one for you. But first, hi, my name is Dr. Vanessa Milagros, and I am a licensed mental health professional. In today's video, I'm going to walk with you through some of the reasons why you may be attracted to these emotionally unavailable partners and what you can do to stop this cycle. So if you're interested in any of those topics, make sure to give this video a like, comment any questions that you have for me, and let's jump right into the video. So let's start with what emotionally unavailable partners look like. And this can manifest in so many different ways, but some of the key signs to look for include partners who are distant, unwilling to commit, and those who consistently prioritize other situations above their relationship. Keyword consistently. They usually tend to avoid deep conversation, display inconsistent behavior, and lack emotional support. You, on the other hand, tend to go without a lot of these things. And although you may get bits and pieces of it, it's not enough to sustain a healthy long-term relationship. So let's talk about a few reasons why you may be attracted to emotionally unavailable partners. The first one could be due to unresolved childhood issues or trauma. Usually we see that those who have had emotionally unavailable parents unconsciously seek out partners that are also emotionally unavailable or have similar dynamics or behaviors or ways of being that resemble or mimic their parents. But you may be unconsciously, which means not with intentionality, finding these similarities in order to fix past childhood wounds. The next reason could be due to attachment issues. Now, I have a few videos on attachment styles and anxious attachment styles, avoidant attachment styles. So make sure to take a look at some of those videos after you finish this one. So when it comes to attachment styles, having, for example, an anxious attachment style leaves you craving that emotional connectedness with someone. And so as soon as you feel them pulling away, that sparks or triggers your anxious attachment styles even more. The third reason could be due to self-worth or validation. We may believe that if we can win over or convince or get our partners to be emotionally available to us, then we've won because it validates our own worth. When our self-worth is low, we may view the challenge of an emotionally unavailable person as proof of our value and our self-worth. If only I can get them to love me and be that version of an emotionally available partner, then that means that I myself am worthy of love. However, we find that this usually leads to more disappointment, either because the person is not willing to do so or chooses not to. And then the other person is left in this pull, tug kind of emotional instability within their relationships, which can lead to toxicity and a lot of harmful things. So it's not advised. I think it's important to take a pause here and just remind everyone that this is a common experience and can happen to anybody, no matter how self-aware and how much personal development and growth you've experienced or worked on within yourself. You can still fall victim to this trap of trying to create emotional availability where there is none. And part of the hook that keeps us in there, in those situations, is that when things are casual, you may find that they're great to be around. But as soon as the relationship requires some sort of depth to it, they immediately tend to pull away. And you're left wondering, where is that person that was so great? I know they're in there. Let me work harder at bringing that version of them out. I know I can. I'm worthy enough of it. You see how that goes? Now, we're not doing this consciously a lot of times. We're doing it unconsciously. You may also find that they're very charming, but there's no follow through with it. Now, how do you break this cycle of being attracted to emotionally unavailable partners? The first step in breaking the cycle is recognizing that you're in it. So I want you to look back on previous relationships that you've had, reflect on this, and I want you to identify any common patterns. Are there any similarities in how your previous partners treated you? Are there any similarities in how the relationships ended? Are there any similarities in your patterns within the relationship when you felt them become more distant? Remember that awareness and self-awareness, especially, is the key here. Number two, self-healing. It's important to prioritize your own emotional health and your mental health because it's going to help you understand your emotional intelligence levels, how you are in relationships. It's going to help you identify patterns that you didn't even know were there. Because, for instance, you can look back and say, no, none of my exes are the same. They're all different shapes, heights, sizes, personalities. It's all different. But if you can dig deeper with a therapist, you may find that there are some similarities that you did not notice until you were able to explore that a little bit more. Number three is to learn how to set clear boundaries and follow through with those boundaries. Establishing what you will and will not accept early on in any relationship is helpful. And this can actually help you from becoming overly invested in someone who is minimally invested within you, or someone who isn't capable or chooses not to make your emotional needs a priority. An example of this could look like setting some boundaries early on and right away. If you find that they do not meet these boundaries or these expectations that you have, it's okay to walk away. Now, those boundaries are specific to you, and you have to decide what those boundaries are. If they do not follow through with their word and what they say or with their actions, then it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with that information early on, especially if you've been really clear about your boundaries. And even if you haven't, it's okay to say, you know what, this isn't going to work for me. This isn't going to work long term, and that's okay. But I need to make sure that I protect myself. Because if I continue down this road, I know based on past experiences where I'm going to end up, and it's not worth it for me. And lastly, is to seek healthy relationships. Seek partners who are consistent, who do what they say they're going to do, who practice open communication with you, those who are willing to meet you halfway, just like you're willing to go the other halfway. Yes, listen to words, but allow that follow through to happen with actions consistently. And if something doesn't feel right, that's a great thing to analyze within your therapy sessions, to discuss a little bit more, to see if that's a deal breaker for you, and to then take the next step and value your own self-worth and walk away from that. It's important to remember that this takes time. It is not easy because it is a habit that you have formed over years. And so small, consistent steps over time, not perfection, is going to be really helpful for you here. Make sure you have support outside of yourself, outside of the relationships that you're developing. That way someone can tell you, hey, you're based on what you're telling me or based on what you're showing me, you're falling into these patterns again. So I'm keeping you accountable here. It's also important to remain kind to yourself. There's no use in beating yourself up and saying all these negative things about yourself and you will never and how could you. And there's no point in that. It's not helpful. The past is the past. You're working on developing yourself, your emotional intelligence, your own self-worth and value. And so tearing yourself down while trying to lift and build yourself back up is not going to be beneficial for you during this time. Practice being kind to yourself. Healing old wounds and creating new patterns is not easy. And it's not for the weak. It is for the strong. And if you're doing this, you are strong. Believe in that, walk in that. Thank you so much for being here. Comment down below one thing that you will try to implement from this video within your relationships moving forward. And I would suggest watching this video right here next.